Coaches, are you ready to revolutionize your game preparation? For the past 5 seasons, coaches across the nation have been using the ultimate scout team game changer, the Coachpad. Imagine this: no more scrambling on weekends to prep scout cards, no more fumbling with paper and binders. Whether you're drawing your cards digitally with a computer program or sketching them by hand, the Coachpad is your all in one solution. Picture yourself on the practice field effortlessly managing your scout team or standing on the sidelines during game day, syncing adjustments from the press box to your coaches on the sideline and back. With the coach pad, you can clearly see your scout cards even in the brightest sunlight. No more squinting or dealing with the wind blowing clear vinyl sleeves everywhere. This offseason, take your coaching to the next level. Get your coach pad today at thecoachpad.com and gear up for a winning season ahead.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have longtime Ohio head and assistant coach, Hall of Fame coach, and retired coach, Coach Steve Channell. Coach, how are you doing?
Doing great this morning. Thanks for having me on, Nick.
No problem, my friend. No problem. Now, before we get started, obviously, I know who you are. I know you're a Hall of Famer. I know, again, your various stops, including most recently Troy, places you've been head coach, Miamisburg. Kind of for people who around the country who don't know you, can you give us just a synopsis of kind of how your career took you from kind of like start to most recently retiring at Troy?
Well, real quick, I started out as a young assistant at Edgewood, which is in north of Cincinnati. And after 5 or 6 years, I was able to become the head football coach at age 30 or something like that, if I believe. I was there for 20, 22 years, something like that, and had my share of success, had my share of failures, but over the course of time, and went to state championships, state semifinals a couple times. Then from there, I went to Miamisburg High School for 7 years. We had a great turnaround there, and then was there for 7 years, and then the last 3 years I helped out up at Troy High School, which is north of Dayton. So I've experienced it all: heartache, the joy of victory, all that kind of stuff. And then the whole time, other than my first 2 years, I was a wing T guy. So wing T all the way. Let's leave it at that.
What were you the first 2 years?
Where?
You said all but 2 years that you were wing T. What were the
Oh, well, back then, my first year as a head coach was like 1990. I mean, back then you either ran I formation or you ran split back veer or you ran wishbone or something like that. So I was I formation because that's what everybody did, the spread. And now the double slot, stuff started to come into play at that point in time. And that's when the slowly, the spread concept started coming in, and Bill Walsh started doing his short passing game out on the West Coast, because then it became the West Coast offense and all that. So, you know, that's what I did for 2 years. Then I went to a clinic because I was at a school, above average enrollment. Back then in Ohio, there were 4 divisions, and we were Division 2. Division 1 was the biggest. And I went to a clinic in Louisville, Kentucky, and I listened to Tubby Raymonds. Now, you know who Tubby Raymonds is, and everybody else may not know, but he was like, at that time, the wing T guy out of Delaware. And I listened to him talk about the wing T offense, and I thought, gosh, that fits where I'm at to a T, because it was using misdirection and, smaller, more mobile linemen, and it was using, a lot of ball faking and so forth. And the point of the talk was, if you don't have great athletes year in and year out, which a lot of us don't, then this is an offense for you to consider. And I thought, that's perfect for us. So my first year in the wing T, great success story. We ran 5 plays and we went 0-10. And I thought, what the H? What's going on here? So I went back to Kiski, which is in Pennsylvania, and to camp, and they said, just keep staying what you're doing, and you will slowly see an evolution, which in the end did. Following year, we went 4-6. Then that next year, I think we went 6-4, 7-3. And for the next 15 years, we weren't worse than 7-3, 12, 13 straight years in the state playoffs, and had a great run, like 12 league titles and so forth. But we were under center, true buck sweep, true wing tee. So
Now,
that's
before we get down the wing T rabbit hole, because we are going to go down that, I want to talk the High School Football Coach Association All Star Game, because I don't want that to get lost in the weeds or us
yeah.
run out of time on that. Because I mean, I don't even know how many people in our state really know that, especially ones that aren't involved with our associate, like directly on the board, how much of a part you take in that. Like you take great pride in making sure that event runs smoothly, runs well, that our kids are represented, that we have two good games every year, and the fact that you are trying to make sure it's sustainable and working on reaching out to people who've played in the game to obviously continuously raise money to pay for it. Like from a like what is the process and the evolution been for you in terms of running that game and kind of making sure it sustains? Because if you look around the country, all-star games come and go, they just do. Ours has kind of lasted and tested the time. It's evolved, but it's lasted and tested time. What do you kind of attribute to that, and kind of what has kind of been your plan slash pathway through that?
Well, just to give everybody a quick history lesson, uh, this year, this spring, April, we always play our game in the last several years, the last Saturday in April. We'll be holding our 80th year of the Ohio North-South All-Star Game. It's the longest running high school football game in the country. And like you said, it has sustained over time. It's been through tough times, good times, whatever. But anyway, about 12, 15 years ago, I was a coordinator or director for Ohio for the Big 33 game. For those who don't know about the Big 33, it was the best 33 players from Ohio versus the best 33 players from Pennsylvania, and we played it in June. And these are graduating seniors who had just graduated from high school. Back then, kids weren't going early to school and all that. So your rosters were just SEC, Big Ten, Big 12 type kids. Okay. So then the Big 33 started having some financial problems. So they were trying to get out from that. And so they were approached by Under Armour as a corporate sponsor. And Under Armour said, yes, we'll come on and be your corporate sponsor because they needed the money. So Maryland said, or Under Armour said, but there's one catch. You're not going to play Ohio anymore. You're going to play Maryland because Maryland's headquarters are or Under Armour's headquarters are in Maryland. So we lost the Big 33 game. We were still running the North-South game and still running the Big 33 game. And some of the players would play in both because they're about a week or two apart. So we lost the Big 33 game. So then, as a coach association, we decided to run through Mike Mock, a longtime famous coach here in Ohio, came up with the concept, well, let's run two games because we had two All-Star games in the summer for Ohio, North-South, Big 33. So we lost the Big 33. So concept came up with, let's take a larger school, divisions 1 through 3, because there's 7 divisions in Ohio. Let's make one game just 1 through 3. That means the players come from divisions 1, 2, and 3. And then a second game would be divisions 4 through 7. It's called big school, small school, whatever you want. So that was about 12, 14 years ago. So we've been able to sustain that over time and go through that, growth of that. And then about, 10, 12 years ago, once we lost the Big 33, we didn't know what to do. We were leaving from Columbus. We were playing at Cruz Stadium, and we're sitting in the room, and everybody's like, "What the heck are we going to do?" And so I raised my hand. I said, I'll take this on. Let's bring it to Dayton because that's where I'm at in the Dayton, Cincinnati area. So we were able to bring it to Dayton. We played at Dayton Welcome Stadium for about 5, 6 years. That ran its course. We were losing money. Uh, so, you know, so then Canton approached us, where Canton, Massillon area, which is football, NFL Hall of Fame, Massillon, the birthplace of, Paul Brown and the tradition of high school football in Northeast Ohio. So we've been going back to Canton, Massillon ever since. We've been up there 7, 8 years now. It's been working out great.
Now, also with that, you've been really focused on reaching out to alumni of the game. Do you want to kind of talk about that real quick? Because
Yeah,
obviously you want them to come and see the game, but also a lot of those guys are also NFL or very successful with Fortune 500 companies and
yeah.
managers. Like
So
they're not just good football players, but they're successful human beings.
right. So the idea right now that I'm trying to, myself and some other directors, is trying to reach out, and the difficulty is, how do you go about contacting all these former players? So we're trying to put together a database of how we can contact former players. I mean, there could be a player that played in 1994 who's now, a high school principal, or he could have been in the NFL for, like you said, 8 years, or he could be a doctor. He could be that. Doesn't make any difference where they've gone on to, but getting those rosters and then trying to create a contact for those individuals. Because if you think about the number of years of this All-Star game and how many players have gone through it. Plus, now in the last 12 years or so, we've had 144 players involved, plus 24 coaches a year. So you have two rosters of 36, which is 72. Then you multiply that times two, because two games, you have 144 players and 24 coaches. So that's 168 individuals every year for the last at least 12 years. And then before that, you go back to, the Roger Staubachs and Ben Roethlisbergers and Paul Warfields and, Jason Kelsey, I'm not Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey. So if anybody knows how to get a hold of Travis Kelsey, let me know. My my cell's 513-623-1902, Steve Channell 24 at Gmail. But anyway, so right now we're really trying to gather information on where we can send. I've already got a letter formulated to send to North-South alumni, because the game, Nick, it costs the coach association. We're not businessmen. We're high school football coaches. It's a six-figure expenditure. Let's just put it that way. And the coaches association is just a bunch of high school football coaches in Ohio that do a great job. We've given out, I think, 1.3, 1.4 million in scholarships over the years to high school kids in Ohio. We do great work in the communities and so forth. But we desperately need some financial assistance and support to help offset the cost for this game. And so that's why we're trying to formulate some type of contact list. So if guys are listening to this and they know any, former players who played in Ohio North-South All-Star game, you have a phone number, an email, anything, please forward that to us. And I'm sure you'll put my contact information on here at some point in time. But that's been a great, great career thing for me on top of coaching, is running this North-South game along with Tony Carr, who's up in Massillon as a principal, and some other guys that help out a great deal. So you ask a question and all you got to do is sit back, because all I'm going to do is talk the whole time. So,
Hey, those sometimes are the best ones, Coach. I'm gonna ask this question because we kind of prompted it beforehand, and again, you are a longtime wing T guy. I mean, anybody that knows you knows that. We do have sat down and talked to wing T. Obviously, I mean, and we'll talk about you helping schools install it here later. But obviously, there's become a prevalence of various wing T-isms over the years: pistol, shotgun. And you have a very key saying when it comes to whether you are under center wing T or not, which you can go ahead and use, Steve. Just go ahead.
well, the wing T is a great offense. All offenses are good. I don't care what you're doing these days. Um, a lot of guys, doing the empty and, whatever, 3x1s and shotgun and all that. It doesn't make any difference, what you're doing. It's whether you believe in what you're doing. I believed in the wing tee because that's what I had my, career built around. And I wasn't a defensive guy. I was an offensive guy. And I honed in on the wing tee. I just think it's a great, high school offense. And a lot of people that use it have success. And I travel around, helping programs install. I just got back from North Carolina, a couple of weeks ago, and meeting with I think 3 other schools this spring to help install the wing tee. My saying that I wanted the opportunity to say during this podcast, Nick, was you're either pregnant or you're not. Now, some guys are out there saying, what's that mean? I believe true wing tee is under center. So once you start going under center, then sprinkling in shotgun, I don't think you're pregnant anymore. Okay. You've got a false read on that test on that tube. Okay. Because to me, once you go to shotgun, and it's fine, guys have a great stuff with the shotgun. But I just believe in true wing tee, Delaware, buck sweep, belly, trap, waggle, jets, whatever. My problem with the shotgun piece is I think it's hard to incorporate both of them because you're not married to either one at that point. So when it comes into nitty gritty time and it's 3rd and 2, and I can't stand seeing guys shotgun the ball back 5-6 yards deep when you got to go a yard or two forward. That doesn't make sense to me. But so that's the saying: you're either pregnant or you're not. And then also with the shotgun, and this is all my opinion. So guys are sitting out saying he's full of what, but it's just my opinion. Where do you draw the line? Okay, now we're going to go shotgun, and now we're going to do this package, and now we're going to do this pass, package with this bunch or, whatever it is. Okay, now we're going to start reading that backside end, and now we're going to pull it if he's closing and all. You're not doing wing tee at that point. I mean, yeah, we're still pulling the guards and we're doing pinning and pull. No, you're not wing tee. You're not under center. You're not, camouflaging the ball. I mean, I would argue with that all day long if somebody brought up that conversation. So to answer your point, you're either pregnant or you're not. So I think true wing tee is under center.
Now with that,
Now, is that a pretty strong opinion there, Dick?
no, I don't think it is. I think you can get that argument on a variety of topics. Like again, you as a wing T person being under center, you can talk to air raid people, and the second you start adding tight ends and H backs, I think a lot of them will probably make that same argument. Well, you're either air raided or not, and same thing with the run shoot. And I think everybody's got their. And to your point, I think here's my opinion. I think it's a lot easier to be successful with under center wing T than shotgun wing T,
Yes.
from
And
my observation.
not to interrupt you, but there's another saying I have, and you'll laugh at this because I've done clinic talks on it. Don't put too much water in the Kool-Aid. Well, Steve, what's that mean? Well, that means, okay, I've got a glass of grape Kool-Aid, okay? I keep adding water to it. This is correlating to keep adding more offense to my offense. The longer my play sheet gets, the worse my offense probably is because I can't do anything well. So I'm just grab bagging. So the more water you put into the Kool-Aid, at some point, I don't know what my flavor is anymore.
You just dilute it.
I don't know if I have grape or lemon lime or hell, I don't know what it is. So anyway, so you're either pregnant or you're not. Don't put too much water in the Kool-Aid. Don't water down your offense. I would much rather play against people that don't do anything well than somebody that does a few things really, really well. And they're going to do it. I know they're going to do it. Now you got to stop them. Those grab bag people that go under, then shotgun, when they do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, schedule 10 of those guys every season. I mean, I want them on the schedule.
In part, that's why you like if you look at like you, Jim Plays, Bill Neese, Whit Parks have all been so successful. You know your niche and you run it very well. Like again, like I, everybody knows that you're going to run the wing tee, you're going to run buck sweep, you're going to run dive. Like you play Bill Neese, you know he's going to be in 4-4 cover three. He
Yep.
ain't going to change. Like, but again, you know that, but y'all are still extremely successful because you're really good at what you do. Like, it's that old thing of try to get. It's the old Bruce Lee quote about I fear a man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times instead of a man who's practiced 1,000 kicks one time. It's
Yep.
that old. It's the same adage. Now with that, like you've installed the wing tee at several schools, not only helping out, but like as a coach, like Troy, um, Edgewood, Miamisburg, like and goes on. Like, what is the like for you the most important thing when you get to a new program? Is it how you install the wing tee? Is it hiring coaches? What is the most important thing to you? Is it culture stuff? What is the most important thing when you take a job as an assistant or head and you get involved in the new program?
Well, I think the first thing I would say, and that's a great question. The first thing I would say is you have to believe in what your plan is. I mean, because everybody's got an opinion, and you're going to hear all these voices, whether it's community, staff, administrators, whatever. And if you truly believe in what you're going to implement and how you're going to implement it as a program, offense, defense, philosophy, all the way down through the junior high, whatever your plan is, you have to believe it and don't vary off of it because the 25-year assistant who's been at school X for 25 years, well, we don't do it that way here, or we tried that and it didn't work. People aren't going to believe in what you do. And like you mentioned, like those coaches you just mentioned, those guys, you use the word niche. They had a plan, they stuck to it, and they saw it through, good times, bad times, and they didn't deviate too much. When coaches start deviating away from their plans or what they're trying to do, to me, the message is what we're doing is not working. It's not working. So it's what we're doing. It's not, the kids, or it's not this. It's, well, I didn't have a good offense this year, so I want to go try this offense. Well, that you're going to run out of options at some point in time. Believe in yourself, believe in what you're going to do, and go do it. And eliminate those outside voices all the time, because they are there and they're always there, because people can turn on their computer, laptop, TV, and all they do is see empty, motion, shotgun, throw it around. Well, last time I checked this past year, running the ball was pretty effective for Ohio State, and it was pretty effective for the Eagles. So the Eagles' big plays came off because they kept doing the run. Now, they weren't successful with Barkley on the run. I think he rushed 25, 27 times for 50-some yards, but everything else came off of that action of running the football. I think you're going to see that continue at all levels, where running the football is going to be the formula to winning.
Now, also that like when you install the wing tee, what is usually I don't like the word hardest. That's the first one that comes to my mind, but like hardest or like where do you have most hiccups? Is it with your staff like, and teaching them if you don't have an experienced staff? Is it adjusting players maybe if you're taking over a school that ran something completely differently? Is there just a little like a play that takes a lot of little detail and you know it takes a lot of detail? Obviously, buck sweep, there's a lot into it. But like, is
Yeah,
there something that you know, like, hey, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna install the wing tee, and set point, this is going to be a thing I'm going to really focus on because it always takes the longest to do.
that's so difficult to answer. It's a great question, but the reason I say it, there are so many different levels and layers of what you have to go through. And I'm going to come back to kind of how I answered your first question, is you have to believe in what you're doing. And I'm a true believer in wing tee. I truly believe in buck sweep as the bread and butter we're going to build our stuff off of. But that comes from the head coach and how you deliver and how you communicate that to your staff, to your community, to your players. And you tell them here's how we're going to win, and you spell it out. A lot of times guys say, they'll teach a kid something or they'll tell parents something. I think the biggest point there is tell them why you're saying that. Tell them how you're going to do something. So to answer your question, Nick, I think you have to hang your hat on something, and that's why I'm not big on the shotgun with the wing tee and under center, trying to mesh the two. You got to hang your hat on something. I always went in, we're going to do buck sweep. We're going to put unbalanced into the boundary, force a defense to make an adjustment. If they don't, then we're just going to run up and down the field. So it's a mentality. The wing tee is a mentality. So implementing the wing tee is also a mentality, and you have to impose your mentality as the leader of the program on those players, and you just rep it. The biggest mistake wing tee guys can make early on is doing too much. I would do 2, maybe 3 series. I would do the buck series, I'd do the belly series, and then something else. I would do dive because I think it's the easiest, most effective play there is in football that nobody runs. Pete Carroll, why don't you line up in the center and hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch from the 1-yard line and just dive it straight ahead and play a little Oklahoma, drill there instead of throwing the damn thing on the 1-yard line. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I would do dive, belly, buck, and then a 3-step simple passing game. But then everything else, you're adding too much water to the Kool-Aid early on. You add a little bit each year, some adjustments, and then I would definitely in the first year do my the trading and shifting and things of that nature and scramble and all that, which you're familiar with. But that's another day, another topic.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of talks about you formationing people in battery because, again, people don't adjust well or their rules prevent them from responding accurately. Now, you mentioned installing there, and that was actually going to be my next question, kind of the order. And obviously, you go in an ideal world. Like I said, again, every school's different on what your kids can handle, what your staff can handle, and how many kids you have, all that jazz. What is obviously, you start with the Bucks series, but what is your series order of preference when you are looking at kind of your installed plan for the summer and the fall?
It's just exactly what we just said, exactly what you just said. Buck, then belly, because don't forget off of those two, you have counters within those series. So then I would do 3-step, which is under center, 3-step, and only a combination of 3 or 4 routes. But you also have motion, like with the wing or running back in the slot to motion. So you can get to a 3 receiver set if you want to. And then the last piece I would put in would be the dive, which is the dive option, the dive keep, and the dive pass. So anyway, so that's on Glazier. If anybody wants to contact me, I can send that to them. Or, when I send that, dudes should be paying me for that stuff, shouldn't they, Nick? Or what?
I mean, after all these years, I would be.
Because Glazier's making money off that, right?
Theoretically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right, especially since they're charging what $500 a staff or whatever it is. Now I want to continue with dive because again, I think a lot of people know the Buck series and what that all buck trap, waggle, and everything that kind of goes with that. Kind of same thing with the belly series. But like I don't again, kind of like you point out, the dive series isn't talked about. And I know how much you love dive. Like I said, me and you have sat in back of clinic rooms talking about dive, me, you, and Todd Nip. Like, one, why do you think? I'll ask this in multifaceted. Like, one, why isn't it used more, especially amongst wing T coaches? Because even wing T coaches don't really talk about it. Let's just be honest. And two, why? Besides it being easy, what is it that you like about the dive series?
Okay, when defenses get together during 2 days or preseason, and they're putting together personnel and they're putting together their defensive plan, what are they? What is their philosophy going to be on stopping? It's going to be on spread. How do we line up to 3-by-1? How do we, adjust to motion, et cetera, et cetera? How do we account for the quarterback? they're not sitting around worried about a quick hitting dive at the B gap outside the outside hip and the guard and the inside hip of the tackle. They're not worried about that. I want to attack that bubble. So it hits so fast, and a lot of times like to do it on the first sound because for a lot of defenses, they're waiting to see either a shift or a motion. So we would come up under center, boom, first down. And all it is, if guys who are listening to this, I'm assuming are football guys, I would think, because your knowledge on anything else is zero. So that's a joke, Nick. I'm teasing.
I know you're good.
um, so just imagine, let's say a tight end and wing to the left, split end to the right. You got your fullback directly behind the center. Then you have your running back, that I was lining him up on the inside hip of the tackle, 4.5 yards deep. Imagine him running straight ahead and the quarterback just opening up to his right, taking 1.5 steps and just handing him the ball. Boom, just like that. You don't block the in-man line of scrimmage. If he closes, that's where you have the keep off the quarterback. The quarterback will just fake the dive, keep it because of fullbacks rule is he's going to log that front side unblocked defender. And that's where you have the pass and option off of it. So rarely is that in-man line of scrimmage going to close quick enough to make the play on the dive. So the tackle gets up to climbs to the second level to the front side backer, guards on scoop, and it just hits so fast. Why do I love it? Because people don't know how to defend that kind of stuff. I mean, they don't know how to defend quick hitting smash mouth directly at you. They're defending read stuff and all that, and guys playing on air and feathering, on the line of scrimmage and all that. And I think it's just a great, play. And then you like I said, the other three pieces is the keep, which is the quarterback keeping, splitting, cracks, fullback logs, and then the pass off of it, and then the option, which is pretty much a speed option with the fullback as the pitch man. I like it because it's physical, and I like it, coming back to your original question, Nick, because it fits into wing T. It's physical. We're going to put our hand on the ground, and we're going to come at you. And that's straight ahead. I'm actually doing a Glazier this afternoon on dive series. So that's why I like it. It's a mentality. It's a physical style of play, and defenses aren't built for that anymore. They're built to be finesse speed teams. So when you get guys listening, as you go against a lot of speed, go directly at it. Try to go around it. You're going to shake hands after the game and not be happy.
That's usually how that goes, unfortunately. Now, also with that, and when did you start adding dive?
I had a dive, gosh, I can't remember how long ago. It's probably 15, 18 years ago, because I'm watching film and I keep seeing this bubble on the line of scrimmage. There's two things I think wing T teams should do: attack bubbles and attack flanks, expose flanks and bubbles on the line of scrimmage. And I'm sitting there thinking, what if we just dive that running back straight ahead at that tackle bubble, because it's usually an even front and you got that bubble sitting right there. And so just did it. It just came off of looking at film and thinking about using common sense. That's another thing I think with coaching is sometimes guys just outthink themselves. I mean, sometimes it's just common sense. I mean, balls on the 1 yard line, don't shotgun the thing to the 6 yard line. It doesn't make sense to me. So, but anyway, so does that answer your question?
Yes, because you're the second, 'cause the only other place I've seen people actively talk about dive is when I talk to the split back veer guys down in Louisiana, because they
Yeah.
run the crap out of the dive, because that's built off their inside and outside veer out of the
Yeah,
split
but
back.
that's option football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not wing T. So that's why I asked the question. Now, also you mentioned three-step game earlier. And wing T is mostly built off play action, belly pass, waggle, so forth. But what do you typically put into your three-step game, just out of curiosity? Again, it's not, we all know wing T passing is not extravagant a lot because again, a lot of it's built off deception, a lot of
Yeah.
it's built off play action. But for when you do your three-step, what does that typically look like?
It's just basically a three-step drop under center. And let's say your split ends to the right, tight ends and wings to the left. We're just going to isolate the split end on a corner, one-on-one, and you're gonna run either a fade, an out, a slant, or a hitch. Okay, so that's your four basic routes. If you put the running back into the slot, now you have two receivers set to that way. So so then there's various rules. I'll just give you a quick example. If I called blue slot 90, which is a slide protection to the right, 91 would be slide protection to the left. The fullback goes opposite the backside edge. If I just called 90 fade, okay, we're throwing a fade to the split end because, like you said, you can't run waggle all the time on third down. You can't run, belly pass all the time. I mean, so just an easy, quick three-step drop. So if I put the running back in the slot, let's say blue slot, tight end wings to the left, running backs up in the slot to the right, same size as split end, and I call 90 slant flat. Well, the split end is going to run the slant. The running back in the slot is going to run the flat. Pretty simple concept. If I bring motion across with the wing, now I'm to a three receiver side. So naturally, if I run slant flat there, I'm going to run the slant with the split end. The motion is the person who'd run the second route because he's moving. So the third guy in the formation, which would be the running back in the slot to the play side, he didn't get a route call, so he goes vertical. So you can do a lot of things off of those simple concepts. And if you want to get into double split, double slot, which I just call that doubles, and then you have your run and shoot type concept, but you're still under center. So if you want to spread people out a little bit, but it's a very effective, easy package. And what I try to do when I look at film, I'm getting beyond your question, but it's relevant. When I look at film, I want to find the weakest DB. Who's the weakest corner they have? Because everybody's got them and they try to hide them. So, that's that assistant superintendent's son. I want to isolate him, and when we're going to throw a three-step, that's where we're going to go. So, and then you get, your different combinations. I can bring the wing across in motion and just run a wheel. I mean, so you can do all your passing concepts off of that, and you don't have to spend a great deal of time. It's not big on big up front, a bunch of confusion. The line slides right, and the fullback goes left to the edge on the backside, and it's easy slide protection. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that's a perfect answer actually. Now one of the other things I want to ask, like we got three questions left.
All
One
right.
thing I wanted to ask you, and we've kind of talked about it, but just for the audience, again, you mentioned trade and shifting earlier, and I mean, me and you sat again, going back to that time we sat down, we talked heavily about that as well. With trade and shifting, like at what point did you add it? And two, when you do put it in every year, is that like a day one thing? Is it a week one thing? Is it a week three thing? What point in your install do you start adding the trade and shifting? Because to be honest, like the logistics of trade and shifting is not that expensive. Like if you
Yeah.
really once you start practicing it, it is not expensive, especially with a rules based offense and how like again gap down backer rules and so forth. So again, like when did you add it, and then when you look at your install schedule, what part do you typically put it in?
Well, it depends on where you're at in the course of your program development. If it's year four, probably going to do that in the first week. I mean, we're going to start sprinkling that in the first week. If it's a first year installment, probably not till week two during the preseason, because you want to get your core down first. Remember, not too much water in the Kool-Aid,
Yep.
right? So I want to get my formations and core part of the offense first. And doing the trading and shifting, guys ask me all the time, isn't that hard to do? And no, you send your team up to the line of scrimmage and say, okay, line up in blue. That's tight end wing to the left, split into the right. Okay, now go to, I would call rip, which means tackle over unbalanced tight into the short side. And okay, now go from there, go to blue slot. So you're just moving the pieces at the line of scrimmage. And so then the next day or two, then you say, okay, let's line up in blue, shift to rip and run sweep right. So they line up in blue, they shift on the quarterback's hand motion, and then they run the play. It's so easy to do. And the concept is force defenses to adjust. And if they don't adjust, then you're going to find a weakness. Like I like, it's no secret. I like getting it unbalanced after a shift because it forces defenses to have to do something. And if they don't match my flank, then I'm going to attack that flank. So, that's the whole concept there. So, at the end of the first week, into the second week, you start doing the shifting. Once don't try to do the shifting before you've taught all your formations, because you want to be able to shift from any formation to any other formation. Does that make sense? So some guys may try to do all their shifting in week one. Well, hell, they don't even have all their formations in yet. So don't confuse kids. Don't put too much water in the Kool-Aid, and you're either pregnant or you're not.
Now, what year did you start shifting and trading?
Oh, that was probably about 15, 18 years ago.
What caused you to add that in?
We were practicing extra point, and we shifted from a kick formation to a closed wing T formation, like the quarterback was the holder and the fullback was lined up like he was going to be the kicker, and we shifted from there because defenses were just lining, 9 guys up on the line of scrimmage and just, okay, go ahead and kick your extra point. So we started running buck sweep off of a shift, and then I saw that causes a lot of confusion for defense. They didn't know how to respond. I thought, well, okay, let's take that idea and let's take it in and implement it into a normal offensive series and go from there. And when we first started doing it, people had no idea what to do. They were running around, they were trying to, kick people, and it just caused a whole lot of defensive problems. And what I found out most guys did, they just said, heck with it. We're just going to stay base. We're going to line up and you do what you want to do and then run your play. Well, that was the purpose of doing it. So, yeah.
Now, also, I mean, I do want to hit on this just in case and to help you get calls. You've mentioned a couple times throughout this, and I have too, that you've started helping schools install stuff. Kind of, I mean, for our listeners or anybody that ever might be interested, what does that kind of look like for a Steve Channell coming in to help at a school install? What advice and what help do you kind of give?
Well, I'm available for, call it consultation, installation, whatever. I mean, let's call it the way it is. There's not that many schools running under center wing T. So what are the resources to try to find out how to do it, or who can they reach out to help? Well, I'm one of those guys. And so I can't tell you how many different schools, that I've helped out. Like I said, I just got back from North Carolina a few weeks ago. Last year, school up in Cleveland, I helped. This year on this spring, I think 2 to 3 schools so far, and just schools in the past. But anyway, I go in and I start with day one. Here's your line splits. Here's your alignment, etc. I mean, I just start the process from day one. And I tell them ahead of time, if you want to start doing shotgun stuff, I'm not interested. I mean, if you truly want to go true wing T, here's what you're going to do, and here's how you're going to do it. Now, naturally, they pay me for, my travel, lodging, whatever, if needed. Then they'll pay me, an hourly rate or a flat rate for, installation. And like I tell them, I'm not trying to, make a killing off of this. Just cover my expenses and pay me a little bit. So let's say you want me to throw some numbers out.
You can if you want, Steve.
I mean, say I went up on a Friday night, 3 or 4 hours, and then 8, 10 hours on a Saturday, get it all done. Then I'm always available for them to call me back or ask questions or break down film or whatever. $50 an hour, something like that. $400, $500, $600. It's not like I've heard guys charging like $3,000, $4,000, doing that. Sorry about that. To do that kind of stuff. That's crazy. So
I'm not getting, I've seen some
not
of
expensive.
those ones that help install for like several grand. And I'm like, ooh,
Yeah. No.
yeah.
No.
Most schools don't have that kind of budget. That's not even now the last thing I want to ask you is because you help a lot of people out. And I think a lot of people don't even kind of realize it. Like me and you've built a good relationship. Todd Nips talked to you a lot, who's also on our board. I saw you talking to 3 or 4 coaches in the lobby, trying asking for advice and stuff too. But what kind of advice do you have for young coaches in our profession, whether it be assistants or head coaches, um, that you could probably give them?
That's a really great question to end this podcast on, Nick, because I just think coaching coaching is a talent. And I don't think younger coaches understand that. It's a skill, it's a talent. I don't think you can learn the game of football on the internet or on, whatever where guys learn. I don't know. I think the best way to learn football is talk to older coaches like myself or whoever, some names you mentioned, pick their brain, find out, how they do things, what did you do, how did you build a program, whatever. And the biggest thing I see from younger coaches is they think they know everything. They've got all the answers because their computer or their phone gives them all the answers. All the answers in coaching are not on a phone or on a computer. Go talk to guys. I mean, the hardest thing to do is, and this has to do with your question, like a head coach is finding good assistants. I mean, to find good assistants is very difficult. Guys who are loyal, have the time, who are knowledgeable, etc. I mean, that's really, really a difficult thing. So my advice to young coaches is, and I'll use a word you used earlier, Nick, which was a great word, find your niche. Okay, are you going to be a defensive guy? If you're a defensive guy, you like the even front, odd front, you like 4-2-5, you want to bring a lot of pressure, you want to be attacking. Find your niche. Find something that you get really, really good at. Okay. And if you're an offensive guy, I found my niche with the wing T. Nowadays, guys aren't going to the wing T as young coaches. Now, the guys who have come up through a high school program that ran the wing T may gravitate, to that direction. Like Bo up at St. Mary's, his dad, ran wing T, and now he's doing that. And unless you were born and raised with it, you may not be. But find your niche. If you're an offensive guy, whatever that niche is, get really good at it. I mean, and the thing to coaching is you should know what you do better than what your opponents know. So if I'm a wing T guy, it's a chess game. So if they're doing this, then I need to counter with that. And that's why I think the wing T is so challenging. But find your niche and be loyal and seek responsibility. Young coaches, don't have your golf bag in your trunk waiting for when practice is done. Seek responsibility. If you were on my staff, Nick, and you came to me and said, hey, Steve, this year I want you to consider letting me call the offense for JV games. I really want to learn that. I want to get good at doing that. I mean, to me as a head coach, that speaks volumes to me, as to what you want to be as a coach, as opposed to, no, I don't want to do that. No, I got to leave every day by this time or whatever, and those guys who don't seek responsibility. So go to your head coach, seek responsibility, and find your niche. Get really good at something, because when you're head coach, you can delegate other things to some people, whether it be defense, offense, whatever. But and I think the biggest thing, Nick, I would finish with is God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and that is to listen. Listen
Yep.
is more important than speaking, and a lot of young guys want to speak a lot more than they listen. So I hope I haven't upset or offended any coaches on this podcast. I know you have, what, thousands or millions of followers?
Got 6,000 on here, and then I don't know what's on Spotify and the other ones. So just it's whatever. Like I don't know. I don't even pay attention to that, Steve. That's not even
Well,
why. It is what it is.
your goal is to help the game of football, and that's
Yeah.
good. I know I give you a hard time a lot, but look, to your listeners, when I would run the North-South games, I'd have Nick follow me around and try to learn, what the role is because I won't do that forever, and so I try to pass knowledge on to the younger guys. And Nick's a good young coach, and this is great that he started this podcast. I hope you guys are listening, got something out of my talk because there'll be a quiz later on. So just an easy 10-question quiz.
So coaches, one, if you want to get a hold of Steve, again, his email be in bio. He gave out his phone earlier. Like, share, subscribe, all that lovely jazz. Check out our sponsor, Coachpad. And then by the time this is out, you can also probably order Wings and Things and go back and watch his talks. I know he's got stuff on Glacier. I think he has stuff. Didn't you do something with Cheap Pigskin too at one point?
I probably did.
I think if you type in Steve Channell's name into YouTube or Google, you'll probably find and put the word clinic afterwards. You'll find plenty. And like I said, then you can send him emails with questions and so forth. If you need help installing anything, reach out to Steve. Otherwise, that's in our episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.